Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the CCA CXS. I know I'm kind of a little bit late to this, to the party, but I've just had other IEMs to review, other things to do, and the CXS ended up just falling behind. No disrespect intended to anybody that wanted to know my opinion about it, or to CCA KZ themselves. Anyway, on to the CXS, and as usual, then the typical KZ CCA package, nothing to really show. It is what it is, period. That's it. Anyway, let's look at the IEM. Obviously, as you can see, I'm not using a stock cable. I'm using a Yinyo cable, 16 core. The IEMs themselves are heavy. I mean, these things are really heavy. Is it a problem? No, because luckily the shape of the IEM, and the overall ergonomics of it and how it fits are very good. And the truth is, it fits beautifully in my ears. I have absolutely no issues using my trusty KB07 tips. And yes, I mean, the whole vibe of the earphone is a very premium one. If this, instead of saying CCA, said any other more, let's say, upscale brand, it would be fine. This would not be offensive to having a Moondrop logo there, or a Duno logo, or Let's Sure logo for that matter. It's got this nice detail here of the hole, which is, gives it a cool design. Open back. With regards to the whole open back vibe, I think it's a little bit misleading when people say that IEMs are open back, because open back, in my perception of what an open back is about, is a headphone where the whole rear section is completely open. So for me, open back would be this whole rear section being totally open, and the driver's rear also being quite porous towards its rear wave output. The same thing applies to planars. When sometimes I hear people saying, "Oh, this is a open back planar," which is the case of, for example, the Hook X. If you take into consideration that the back of the driver, of that planar driver, has a chamber with a vent that needs to obviously port itself, then the whole rear of the diaphragm of that planar is not open to the back. So open back, just food for thought. Anyway, on to what matters now that I've made today's rant. Fit is beautiful, isolation is fine, it looks premium, looks really solid. Let's get straight into what we all want to know, which is, what is the sound? Because this is going to be a really, really simple review to do. Might end up being a little bit longer than what I would have liked, because I talk too much, but anyway, that's just me. I brought out all of these because they have a chronological order to them, okay? And in essence, when I show you the graph in a few minutes, you'll understand exactly what I'm saying. This has been a very cautious evolution of this KZ signature, which basically started off with the original CRA. Then we had the EDA series, CRA Plus, EDX-Ultra, Lyra, and now the CXS. This, and this would be the order for the CCAs. This, and this would be the this, and this would be the order for the CCAs. This and this would be the order for the KZs. But anyway, in respect to how they were ordered, or they were launched, this is how it happened. Okay, this had the original CRA, great sub bass focus, a little bit scooped in the mids, had that crazy 5K peak. Well, crazy. It had a 5K peak, which could be offensive to some. Nice extension because of the use of this very thin diaphragm. I'm not too sure if this is an XUN driver or a derivative of that driver, but the truth was that this driver had really good extension up top, amazing bass. Although it was really prominent, the sub bass, the mid bass, everything was really well done. I mean, $12, people, you know. So let's keep that into context. But it was really well done, and it was able to play with IMs substantially more expensive than what it was. Its only real fault, let's put it that way, was the slightly recessed mids, which kind of closed things down a little bit, but at the same time it brought with it the existence of almost non-sibilance, apart from those areas of songs or vocals where the 5K was going to be a little bit prominent. Then yes, you would notice some sibilance. Okay, the evolution of this was the EDA series, and the balanced for me is the best one. It maintained almost the same bass signature, maybe just a little bit less of the ultimate sub bass output of the CRA, and kind of cleaned up that area there between 3 and 7 a little bit, lowered it slightly, lost a little bit of extension past 10K, but not really noticeable, and overall gave us a very tonally correct signature. The timbre, the tonality, very nice, more better, the vocals, male, female, everything. The CRA Plus was an evolution in the sense that it brought back the treble that you had on here, but it brought it back in a way that it kind of became a little bit splashy, and the bass also was slightly lowered as compared to these two, but overall it was a pleasant sounding IEM still, you know, a little bit. It was just the splashiness of the treble, the loss of cleanliness in the treble that perhaps was the biggest issue. EDX-Ultra, which again is one of my favorite, the balanced and the Ultra are probably my two favorites. It worked on the CRA Plus in terms of the overall signature. The bass output was basically the same. It just tidied up the CRA Plus, so reduced certain areas in that 3, 4, 5K area, 6K area, reduced them slightly, just cleaned it up a little bit. Reduced sibilance, because this one is a little bit more sibilant than that, and cleaned up the treble, just just tidied it up, not as splashy, not as that tendency to be just too fake, let's put it that way. Then came out the Lyra, which used the latest version of the XUN driver. It no longer has that kind of cup in the back, but it's a very thin driver actually. Let me just see. Maybe I can show you. There you go. You see how thin it is as compared to, for example, let me get you the original CRA. Original CRA. Look at that difference. Okay. So Lyra came along, and the Lyra brought up again that whole pinna gain area of the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6K, brought it up again in an attempt to open up more vocals, give it more detail, and in the process it kind of made things too in your face. Vocals became too I'm not gonna say it's glaring, but they just became too overly energetic. It lost in terms of its timbre and tonality, whereas the timbre and tonality here were very good, and they were also very good. Over here we stepped back in terms of that. So this was the basis. This improved upon that. This improved upon that in certain areas, but kind of lost at others. This improved upon all of these previous ones. This one was a step backwards again, especially in terms of that glariness. The CXS. What is a CXS? Basically, the CSX is a Lyra where they've given it a little bit boost on the bass in an attempt to counteract that excessive energy that's over there. So by giving it a little bit more bass, they've made it very bass heavy, It's still a very good bass. It's not become a bad bass by any means. No, it's still a good bass. It's clean, it's dynamic, it's got decent texture, it's got, decent speed. Male voices are fine, female voices are fine. Just that you notice more that fish tendency of the signature to start with. Excuse me. And you also still maintain that glare, that over energy in that area that I mentioned before on the lyra, and that ultimately, for me at least, it doesn't make this an improvement over the lyra. No, it's very much. I will put it basically on the same level as the lyra, but as compared to the rest, well, for me personally, and take this whichever way you want. For me personally, this is not better than the Ultra, and it's not better than the EDA balanced. This is just a different flavor of what was done there in an attempt to improve. I assume, as has been the case so far, so I think I'm not going to be wrong, that KZ will be launching an upgrade to this pretty soon, maybe under the KZ brand this time, or maybe under the CCA, I don't know. Anyway, what is this lyra here? This lyra was a lyra that I retuned basically at the time I got this one as well, and I retuned it, and I retuned it to what I think or to what I consider would be the better tuning of this. So what I did was I opened it up. On the back of the driver I put a Y4 filter, and that Y4 filter kind of reduces the mid bass, the mid bass and the early mid output of the driver, and then I made up for that by putting a Y3 filter in the front here. This Y3 filter in the front here gives it the necessary boost back again, but maintaining a nicer profile of the sub bass, mid bass to mid transition, and extending the ultimate sub bass. So what happens is basically this has the sub bass of the original CRA with a nice smooth transition from that sub bass into the mid bass, into the mids that you find also here. Okay, but it's got just a little bit more energy, a little bit more guts to it, and then a very nice transition into the upper mids and the pin again, smooth, peaking just over 2K, and then maintaining a nice plateau which is lower than the original lyra by a good 3 dBs, or maybe a little bit more, thus reducing that glariness that you have, and then continuing out through the rest of the frequency range, and of course then dropping off past 10K. This in my opinion is maybe the tuning that the CSX should have brought out. That would have been a more mature take on the CSX, which in my opinion, apart from the tuning which still needs some polishing up, is a very nice IM. The fact that you can pick this up for $18 right now, I mean, it's really a no-brainer, I mean, that's the truth. It's honestly a no-brainer. It's very well built, really nothing that can be pointed in that aspect, just the tuning that needs a little bit of a fine tune. I have another set which I will be playing around with, and once I've played around with it and retuned it to what I consider be the ideal, and probably will end up being what I just showed you, it will probably have a tune that will end up being very similar to this. I will let you guys know, not a problem. And yeah, that's it. Basically, in terms of sound, that's it. With regards to the technical capabilities of this IEM, well, as I say, timbre and tonality, I think have gone back again with regards to the EDA balanced and the Ultra. They're not as correct sounding. It's not bad by any means, but it's not as correct as these two are. In terms of soundstage, it's got a decent enough soundstage, especially when you consider the price. Imaging, nothing special. Detailed retrieval, again, I would say is acceptable, although for me the one that still has the two that still have the better detailed retrieval are these two, especially the Ultra. And why do I say that? Because the detailed retrieval here, it can become just it can be just a little bit, I don't know how to put it, a little bit on the fake side. It seems pushed. It doesn't seem natural. It doesn't seem organic. Let's put it that way. And yeah, that's basically it, guys. I mean, there's really nothing more to say about the CSX. It's a continuation of what is being done by KZ in the last couple of months. They've come up, they've come down, they've gone up, and I'm sure there will be a revised version of this coming out soon. If you can pick it up for cheap, like I say right now, do it. You can't go wrong, honestly. I know that for some people, $15 is money. I'm not going to deny that. But, if you want to just get it, and if you are willing then to play around with it, I'll brief, in a very, very short period of time, let you guys know what I've done to this one, as I've just mentioned what I did to the Lyra. And yeah, that's it. As always, like and subscribe. If you guys have got any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll show you the graphs now next. Okay, see you soon. Take care. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section of the CSX review. I'm starting off with the graph of the CRA so that you guys can better understand the evolution and what I just said a few minutes ago when I was talking about it. Anyway, CRA, as you can see, nice sub-bass focus, nice transition into the mids, into the mid-bass, sorry. Nothing really, almost flat by 200 hertz. It was then the spinner that was a little bit slow, but by being slow as well, it made things not be too splashy, not too splashy, too forward, it was nice, had good extension past 10k. Just that peak here at 5 was a little bit of an issue. That's a couple of related peak, and especially because I'm using the 07 tips, it's a little bit difficult to actually shove it deep enough to have the peak there at 8. But anyway, all of the IEMs that I'm going to show you have used the 07 tip, and they're all basically all peaking here at the same place, so it's going to be, let's say, consistent. So this was the original CRA. Then came out the EDA balanced. Actually, let me just, there we go, that's better. The EDA balanced, basically the bass is the same. Honestly, you don't really notice this difference, because this difference is 1 dB, 2, okay? Again, the same thing here, and again, here you do notice that it's not as clean as the CRA up top, but it's not offensive. It's still got good amount of cleanliness and air, nothing wrong there. And funny enough, although you don't see a difference here at this 5k peak, you do notice that it is slightly less sensitive to that area. And if you have songs which that area is emphasized, you will notice it straight away, okay? But overall, the balanced has got very, very similar sound to the CRA. I mean, there's really not a very big difference, and that's why the reason why the balanced was so well reception. We had such a good reception. This now is, this is the EDX-Ultra. The EDX-Ultra, yes, did drop the bass there slightly, and you do notice it. But this is the biggest area where there was an improvement. It brought back the extension past 10k of the original CRA. This year was brought down massively, and you can hear it. You definitely can hear that it's an improvement there. This, actually I should have showed you this one first, which is CRA Plus. This is the CRA Plus, which has got, again, the same bass, everything very similar. Let me just take the CRA out here. It's got the same bass, everything similar, very similar here. It's just this area here that on the CRA Plus is somewhat splashy. It's somewhat unclean, okay? And the red line, which is the Ultra, came and cleaned that up, came and resolved that issue and make it the way it should be, basically, okay? Then number 8 here. Sorry, let me just take that out. Oops. 8. Oops. Sorry guys. I'm messing this up. Okay. So. Okay. CRA, EDA, EDX-Ultra, CRA Plus, 8, that's the Lyra exactly. Okay, let's leave here the Lyra with the original. The Lyra with the original CRA, as you can see, it's not really the bass that's a difference, it's the way that it does then the spast or the pin again and how it peaks and where it peaks. And that just made it very very forward, it just sounds edgy when you start pushing, especially when you start pushing the volume. And when you, for example, put it next to the Ultra, like here, you can see straight away what I mean. The Ultra, that difference there is a difference between one being smooth, relaxed, easy to listen to, and the other one being on the edge, okay? This now finally is the graph of the CXX, and as you can see, the CXX is basically the Lyra. It's I mean, this here is unperceivable. You don't notice it. What you do notice is that there's a smidge more bass, and you do hear it, that kind of tries and make up for this area here, which is just not the ideal, let's put it to that way, for me at least. So Lyra, which is the black line, or CSX, is basically the same IEM. Different shell, same driver, maybe an improvement, maybe yes, it's this latest generation. There's a difference in the tuning, yes. There's the fact that one is a metal shell, which obviously will introduce different resonances, and that's why they sound slightly different. And you do notice that the bass on the CSX is slightly more bodied, but overall the same issue that you had on the Lyra exists here. Finally, this graph number 10, this is the graph of the retuned Lyra by me, and I will show you just firstly with the original Lyra, okay, and I'm actually going to put here the Ultra as well so you guys can see. So what did I do? This loss here in the mid bass is unperceivable. This increase in the sub bass is perceivable in the sense that you feel that there's a little extra, how can I put this? There's a sense of more fullness, okay? But the biggest difference is this little 2-3 dB here that I've come down in this area between 2 and 6K roughly, and this way that it's become more plateaued makes the Lyra, my retuned Lyra, a completely different experience. It's way more pleasurable. Okay, and if I take away now the original and just put the EDX-Ultra, you can see it's basically tuned like an EDX-Ultra. Okay, I can even put here the EDA balanced as well. Okay, although the balance is a little bit more different, but it's basically tuned like an EDX-Ultra, where I've cleaned up the mid bass slightly so that it glides better. There's a nicer, smoother glide here, and this whole area as well is a little bit more smoother. The fact that I've apparently lost here some extension is really not as noticeable as you would think. Okay, so yeah, that's it guys, there you have it. I'll just put the graph of the CSX back on. That's the graph of the CSX. By itself is not a bad graph. It looks good, looks interesting. It's just that, I mean, this way that this area here is done and then matched with the rest is just, I don't know, it just doesn't sound ideal. Just for a final sake of comparison so that you guys can see something else different, I'm just going to show you the graph of the MT3, the TRN. That's the graph of the MT3. And the graph of the MT3 to a certain extent follows a little bit of what I did in my retuned Lyra. If you see my retuned Lyra, the green line, and the MT3, they've both got very similar bass, almost identical in the way the pin again is done. It's just in that the MT3 has this peak, which this way of it carries on increasing 5, 6, 7, 8 before it drops. That when you listen to it, and if you've got the right tip and a good insertion, you don't notice it. What you do notice when you listen to it is that it's very detailed, and especially in terms of detail, retrieval, it's excellent. But anyway, taking away that and putting the CSX, which is what we want, the MT3 sounds better. It sounds better. It sounds more correct. Is the CSX maybe more fun? Could be. I'm not going to say that it's not more fun. Maybe some people will find it more fun. It's easier to fit, definitely. The MT3 does have that issue of the fit having to be a little bit ideal, otherwise you're not going to get the best performance out of it. But yes, for me, in terms of sound stage, in terms of the technicalities, the MT3 is a superior IEM. And another IEM that I'm just going to quickly show you, just again for the sake of comparison, and because also it's one IEM that's very much been on the limelight now lately, is the One Ear from Tangzhou. And obviously, look, it's very evident that the bass is not the same in terms of quantity, but the quality of the bass of the One Ear is something else. The way that the pin again is done is actually very similar, but then past like at around 2.5K where they both peak, while one plateaus and carries on, the other one starts sliding down. That reduces the energy around 5K, which is where you will find 5-6K, where you'll usually find the most sibilance. Reduces that, and then gives extension past 10K in a very modest manner. But the reality is, it sounds very good. It's very balanced. It's very coherently tuned. It's very the tonality, the timbre, all of those things in the One Ear have been done very, very well. And that's it, guys. I said I wanted to do a short video, ended up being a long one. Anyway, I hope that it's been at least helpful, and any questions you guys might have, please feel free to ask as always. Okay, you take care now. Bye bye.